Hi everyone, I'm Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA and I've been preparing tax return. Hi everyone, I'm Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA and I have been preparing tax returns professionally since 2008. In 2019, it came a pivotal point in our practice. We were growing really fast and having tons of clients that weren't even in our local area, and we needed a practice management system that had the flexibility to allow us to have a single place for customers to upload documents, for us to work with those documents, prepare the return, upload drafts of the return, upload the final return, have customers pay for the tax return, have customers electronically file for the tax return, and have a single place to chat and conversate and ask questions about the entire tax return workflow. So we implemented TaxDome and we looked at tons of different systems. But late 2019, we implemented TaxDome. And 2020 was our first tax season that we were fully operational with TaxDome. I actually brought in my brother Carlos, who became, I believe, one of the first TaxDome certified consultants. And we brought him into our practice just to help us implement that. And we had a really successful implementation. And Carlos is going to come in and talk to us in depth, in detail, do a demonstration of TaxDome. One thing I want to add is because 2020 during the pandemic was our first successful tax year with TaxDome, it made a world of difference because everything was electronic. Customers already accustomed to doing everything electronic and not going physically into tax offices. And we wanted to avoid having email conversations here and text message conversations there. We wanted to have a single place to have our entire knowledge base of everything that was going on with our tax practice and individual tax cases. So Carlos is going to do a demonstration, in-depth demonstration of all the new features you're going to be experiencing in the 2023-2024 tax season. And this video will be a complement or sort of a part two to an earlier video I did back in 2022 when I had already had 2 years of TaxDome under my belt, 2 or 3 years of TaxDome under my belt, and I think it was time to show the world, how well it worked for our practice. So I created a video about that, and I'll put that in the description. So all the base stuff of how TaxDome works is actually covered in that video, and in this one we're gonna get deeper into the trenches of like the really cool advanced features that we have. So without further ado, I'm gonna invite my brother Carlos to come in and talk to us about TaxDome in depth. Hi, Carlos, and the floor is yours.
Hey, Hector. Thanks so much. Great framing to what we're going to talk about today. And as Hector mentioned, I'm a TaxDome certified workflow consultant. And, I did get the opportunity to continue to work with Hector's firm, among other bookkeeping and tax firms, to help them optimize their workflows. And let's dive right in. So what is TaxDome? What is it meant to do? It's really an all-in-one platform for tax bookkeeping and accounting firms. And the goal of this is to help you really replace all of your tech stack so you can have one stop shop for your customers to log into a portal, upload their documents securely, chat with you securely, be able to DocuSign, pay you, among tons of other features that we're going to go over today. So if this is the first time watching the video, we're going to do a complete demo of what it is to invite a client to the portal, all the way to bringing them into an automated workflow so that you can save time for your firm and be a lot more effective and efficient, spending time focusing on other things and growing your firm and your teams. So, Hector, one of the things I figured we can start with is to kick off what the 2023 updates are for the year. And I want to kind of have a conversation with you to see if we could just, you could share what were some particular features that you were excited about or you're excited about that's coming. So the first one is the recurring invoices. We know that using TaxDome allows you to leverage either a few merchants, either Stripe or CPA charge. And now you can actually sign up clients as part of your workflow, whether it's manually or automated. You can put them on recurring invoices. So if you have client engagements that you want to be able to sign up on an annual contract, now they can actually sign up through the proposal feature or through an invoicing where you can put them on recurring, where in the 22 video, we did not have that feature. So I'm really excited about that. The other one is they've also improved a lot of user experience features, specifically client portal. So it's easier for the client to be able to log in from their mobile app where they can upload documents, sign contracts, fill out organizers, do everything from the comfort of their own smartphone, as well as doing it from the desktop. We also have a new feature that's coming out towards the end of October, is what they are looking to potentially roll out, which is the SMS feature, which I absolutely love. We know that our clients communicate in so many different ways, and text message is a very common way to do so. So now TaxDome is partnered with another technology company to be able to integrate SMS texting so that you can automate giving clients updates or reminders around, what are some things that are missing or what's the status of the work that's being done for them. There are all other CRM features that are continuously getting updated, such as when the client fills out an organizer and they fill out specific data, you can now map that data into what are called custom fields, which we'll go into a lot more in depth. We've got some other firm features so that the firm owner and firm members can look at work in progress page to be able to create invoice from time entries. So for those of you who are doing time-based billing, this will be a wonderful feature to help you keep better control and also bill your clients accordingly. And there are a few others that I personally like, which is that you can now change the tags. We'll talk about tags in a little bit inside of the pipeline, which is huge. It'll change the customization of some of the automations that you'll do. And the last but not least, which I know, Hector, you probably love this feature, is the add mention feature inside of the jobs and what impact that has. So as I read all of those updates, Hector, which one of those excites you the most that you're using and that your team is using, and any other comments you want to add?
Right. Yeah, all those are awesome. The only one that we haven't used yet because it hasn't been implemented in ours is the SMS feature. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit, and maybe when you're watching this video later on, that I assume at some point it will be fully implemented. I'll put in the description below a video just to the SMS feature once it's out, because we wish we would have covered it in this video, but it's just literally being implemented when we're recording this. But SMS is going to be huge because a lot of our clients do read their emails. That's true. But sometimes email systems or email services send certain emails straight to spam or don't flag them a certain way. And sometimes our customers are not sort of immediately jumping on to reply to a question or a document request via email if somehow they missed that email. So it will be nice, and this is based on our conversations with TaxDome, it will be nice that we could choose what information can go to SMS or it can go via WhatsApp. And some clients are going to want that. Some clients are not. This is going to be a customizable experience where some of your clients are going to want to interact with that. And as they improve those SMS features, it would also be nice if somehow our customers could also upload pictures or documents via the SMS feature, even though it's technically not necessary because there's a phone app and the phone app could do that. But these are the things that we're looking forward to on this particular feature we haven't used. The biggest thing here, believe it or not, is the proposals and recurring invoicing, particularly because, especially in what's happening with my firm, is that prior to 2023, our thought was we should only prepare the return, invoice the client, and we're done. Okay, and we worked really hard at separating our recurring services like recurring bookkeeping or recurring accounting versus our tax returns, and this is how we built our firm to split these two. Now, I recently brought in a new partner and rebranded my firm and essentially sold that book of business to that separate firm with a new tax preparer. And one of the philosophies of that firm, underlying philosophy, is that we're going to be tax advisory and tax planning first, and then tax return is sort of an afterthought. And with that comes with the change of philosophy in billing, where it's no longer a once a year billing process, it's more of sort of a subscription like contract where we're going to send proposals to people where, hey, here's the one-time tax return, and here's the limits of that service, and here's a much more all-inclusive service that comes with tax planning, tax audit guarantee, all sorts of add-ons that we're building around that service, but it requires the client to pay monthly rather than to pay annually. So for all the firms that are going through that process of moving from one time, once a year invoicing to recurring invoicing, that is going to be huge because it also presents a business model change. So for us, that particular feature we think is probably going to be the biggest game changer. Proposals too. So we were used to, prior to proposals being implemented in TaxDome, we were sending proposals sort of as a text message. It goes via email regardless, but we were going in the chat feature and saying, okay, for this year, your tax return will be 800 or 1200 or whatever it is. And we would just basically put bullet points of the information in a text message. The customer would agree, and that's it. Okay. And then we would put together an engagement letter, which TaxDome has had from the very beginning, the ability for you to electronically sign any document. But having it as a formal proposal that workflows from proposal to invoice, from invoice to payments, and the customer be able to, in one shot, agree to a proposal and put the payment information, and then that entire piece be automated, I think that's going to be huge. Now, time tracking is going to be big for a lot of firms. Our firm doesn't do time tracking. We don't charge by the hour. Every once in a while, we kind of want to get a gauge of the idea of how long a particular job took, especially in the like bookkeeping cleanup side. So we could engage into just looking at the time that it took, but we never, ever, ever use that for invoicing. But I work with a lot of firms that still do. And if you haven't changed your business model to a value price or subscription price and you're still stuck in the hourly billing, that's fine. TaxDome could also give you that. So having that time tracking feature it's really big. And the biggest thing to me also has been getting out of my old CRM system. So we used to have a separate CRM system. We were tracking all the leads, and because a CRM system is focused around sales and follow up and all those things, tax management or tax practice management software it's never really focused around that. It's more around the work and the electronic filing and electronic signatures and all that stuff. Now TaxDome has brought in more CRM components, so you could also put your proposals in for leads, and you can follow up on those in TaxDome, so you don't have to have two systems. So I would say from the video I did 2 years ago till now, those are the biggest things that I think are big. Um, the one thing I can say about TaxDome that immediately makes me want to recommend it to other firms is that I have never used any system in the 15 years I've been practicing where the customers adapted so quickly, right? So I've used different types of portals, try to nudge our clients towards doing things in a certain system rather than emailing or text messaging and that stuff. And the portal is drop dead simple, super easy to use, and our customers all use it. And I would say primarily that's the reason why it was so easy for us to essentially sell the tax portion of our business to this new firm, because the client experience never changed. The new firm basically took over the TaxDome account, the history, the archives, the signed returns, the documents the client uploaded, the documentation, the signed proposals and agreements, the conversations. It's all in one place. And to get anybody else to sort of take over a client, a project, an account with a system like this is drop dead simple. It's really easy. So like that would be like sort of the infomercial part. Like if you wanted to get out of me, what is it that I love about TaxDome? But I'm excited, Carlos, to see some of these new features in action.
Yeah, let's dive in. I figure what we could do is just briefly talk about some of the integrations. What else does TaxDome work with? So you can sync your email into TaxDome. Whatever documents, you get a lot of clients that will still email you documents no matter how hard you try to get them into logging into the portal. Or you may not have as many technology forward clients and they still want to go through the old school email approach. I know that this is something your team loves, Hector, and a lot of the customers I've helped is that if you sync your email, not only can you see the history of your email, and the team can also see the kind of a global email thread along with anybody who has a license that's communicating with the customer to have a little bit of context of what's going on, especially if a team member goes on vacation. But the biggest thing is if they upload a document via email, the actual document can be directly downloaded into the client's folder. A lot of people love that because it just saves so much time from all the clicks that you have to do. The other thing is if you have like a Calendly or some sort of scheduling app, you could also integrate that into the portal if you want to leverage having some booking links for clients to schedule one-on-one advisory or any type of scheduled appointments with you. You also have QuickBooks that you can sync into it. Again, a few merchants and tax programs. So if you want to print from your tax program directly into the TaxDome cloud secure folder, you can directly print from there into the client's folder, which is a very organized approach. And not only does this work via cloud, but there is a TaxDome app you can download for your Windows or your Mac that will allow you to do it just from the application itself without having to log in through the web portal. And that's a feature that a lot of firm owners absolutely love, especially if you're in the tax world. What I figured we do now is go into the pricing, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about what kind of different programs does TaxDome offer. So we have TaxDome Lite on the left. This is more for kind of a solopreneur who's getting started, small amount of clients, those who are just interested more in the having as many clients as you can added in there, doing more document sharing, document storage, and e-signature. All of these features are unlimited. It's $33 a month. It's only for one user, so you can't add any more users to this. So if you're kind of starting out and you have a small group of clients and you're really not interested in all of these advanced features, you just kind of want a place for clients to upload documents securely and be able to do e-sign, DocuSign, etc. You can do that. You can leverage custom fields. There's a client portal available for the client from the mobile app. Secure chat. You can create tasks for your clients to complete via the portal, and you can still integrate your tax software into TaxDome. And they do offer a complimentary onboarding session. Now,
let me add something to that, Carlos, if you don't mind. So with TaxDome Lite, if you have only one employee in your tax firm, or if you have more than one, you essentially share the user ID and password, but you have a single user in your tax firm logging in and interacting, you can have unlimited customers. This is a really important piece because in the world of software, especially the accounting world, almost everything is tied to like the amount of customers you have or the charges per customer or per client file. So that's not a limitation. You can do thousands and thousands of tax returns. Only limitation in this case is that only one person can log in. So if you have two people working and you want to chat with each other, or you're chatting with the customer and you want the customer to know, hey, it's not Carlos who asked me that question, it's Hector who asked me that question, because sometimes there's context, right? You can have one person that basically gathers documents and one person that maybe gets into the nitty gritty of tax, and the customer contextually, by seeing the chat window and the interaction, wants to know who is who. That type of stuff requires a multi-user setup, and then you would have to go with TaxDome Pro. Now, very important, TaxDome Lite is an annual billing. So like your firm has to be committed to, to 33 times 12 to pay that upfront. And really a couple months of tax don't do anything. You really can't evaluate, a tax practice management software until you've used it for an entire year. So that's kind of the logic behind it is, hey, listen, you're not going to get anything out of it if you only get 2 or 3 months worth. The commitment needs to be at least a year. So you pay annually. And on the light version, you can do all the essential stuff. You can get electronic signature on every single tax return. You can do, you can print from any tax software. Just literally print your tax return and then choose which client it goes to, and automatically goes into the portal. You can submit it for, you can send them a review version, without signature, so the customer can just look at it, approve it prior to signing, and you get the full client portal and the phone app. So that's essentially what all a tax practice needs: a single place to share documents. Our firm, we've had at some point we had like 9 people interacting with TaxDome inside of our firm, so we had to go with Pro. Okay, and then Pro is, I believe, if you only do 1 year, is $80 a month, correct? Because $50 a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they changed their pricing model
Okay.
in the sense that, they do the 1 year subscription. It comes out to roughly about 66 a month or 800 per license holder. So if you have two team members, then you'd be paying 800 per team member. But if you commit to a longer subscription with them, then you get the incentive of saving and preserving, because last time it was 600 a year. So clearly, with all of these additional feature upgrades and all this additional value that TaxDome has created, I mean, it still makes sense for the $800 a year investment if you don't want to go into the full commitment of the 3 years. But they still have an incentive for a client to still uh, try to get the best bang for their buck for those who are more all in and they've been using TaxDome for a long time and they believe in its ongoing value.
Yeah. So when
So
I
yeah,
did so when I did the video two years ago, it was $50 a month, and they've added all these new features. So they've maintained the $50 a month just with a 3 year commitment.
yep. And what do you get with the Pro? As Hector mentioned, you get all of the additional features. You get the workflow automation feature, which is the huge value add here, is being able to automate all your processes from the beginning to the end, whether it's client onboarding, if you're doing tax work, if you're doing bookkeeping work, or other smaller types of projects or services that you offer your customers, like payroll, sales tax. You can create any type of workflow that you want with any custom automations that you want. It really is fascinating in that sense. Even some businesses that don't focus predominantly on tax or bookkeeping leverage TaxDome just because of those features. You could do time and billing. As Hector mentioned earlier, the proposals feature is something brand new that they're continuing to upgrade, and it's already out with some limited features, but already very useful and valuable. And then the client has the ability to also upload PDFs and edit them. We've got the mobile app. One of my favorite features is the firm wiki, which is sort of like an internal documentation that you can build into your workflow automation. So if you want to give internal instructions or procedures on how to do specific actions when you're filing more, like a state tax return, or how to do payroll, or how to do sales tax here and there, you, the firm owner, can build SOPs inside of the workflows and help the team follow instructions accordingly so that you can continue to work on being effective. And the other feature we'll talk about is the white label website and client portal. And the biggest value add here is that TaxDome provides unlimited support and advanced training one-on-one sessions with them. And they really are super useful and helpful with that. One of those things that other app all-in-one application software companies do not offer that TaxDome does. So what do we say, Hector? Should we dive in and start talking about a little bit about the portal and how to create a new client and all that good stuff?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do client creation, communication, and client portal. That gives you a general idea for, like, how you will be interacting with your clients in TaxZone.
Perfect. So this is the first page that you log in when you log into the firm portal. You'll see on the left side is sort of your navigation menu of where do you want to be able to see what's going on inside your firm. On the right side, your insights page is one of the new features that also came out this year, where it allows you as the firm owner or the license holder to know where everything is, what kind of activity is going on. We're going to talk a little bit about what jobs are in just a second. But tasks are really the biggest piece that allows you to know what kind of work you need to focus on. What are some things that are due, overdue, based on are they level of urgency, and what you need to complete in order to move some of these projects forward and through the workflow. Jobs are actually the projects that you're working on. These are the services that you're providing to the customer at a period of time. Best way to describe this is a 2022 tax return is a job. Uh, Entering the data into the tax software is the task. Sending an invoice is a task. Preparing the tax return is a task. Reviewing the tax return. And so we're going to build a bunch of tasks inside of the job or the project itself so we can move it along through the workflow. We'll go into that a little bit later. The other one I like is pending client activity, which will take you to direct menu, whether it's outstanding invoices, organizers, signatures, proposals. So by clicking on that, it'll give you a list of all the clients that are pending so you can properly do your follow-up. And then if you're managing your team, you could also have a team management view of what outstanding tasks or jobs your team is working on. And you can really get into more details of getting to know high level overview what's going on with your firm. Then you've got your Inbox Plus, which will give you most of your notifications of what is happening across client activity and internal team activity. If you're being mentioned, think about if you have a Slack channel and you get @mentioned, right? You're going to get a little notification. This happens internally as well. Team members can @mention each other throughout tasks and jobs and other parts of the portal so that you're in the know of what's going on. A calendar will give you a high level of any tasks, just more from a calendar view. Your workflow, which we'll go into, is for you to know how to prioritize your projects and all the customers that you're adding into those automations. This is your CRM side, which is your client view. One recent feature upgrade that they did is TaxDome significantly improved the UX on this, the user experience, where you can better sort and filter your clients by all of these type of elements. So it allows you to better understand, how to locate clients and what kind of actions you want to do with them. If you want to send a segmented group because of a tag, you can segment it by tagging them a certain type of tag and do a bulk action in doing so. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Your document management center is also a newest feature that we have, which will give you a overview of uploaded documents, signed documents, approved documents. We talked about briefly proposals and what can you do, with proposals to allow you to build out, some of these proposals that you want to send to your clients and engagement letters. This is your wiki page, which will allow you to build out all of your processes and procedures and incorporate them into your workflows. Then you've got your invoice menu that will let you know what outstanding invoices that you have. And then in your settings is where you can build out a few other specific, features and customizations that you want to have. So let's go into creating a new client. So in the plus new menu is where you can manually do any type of action inside of your firm portal. And one quick thing I want to share with you is the difference between what is an account and what is a contact. A lot of people get this confused. The account is necessarily like the profile that you're setting up for the client, whether it's an individual or non-individual, right? An entity, a nonprofit. This will be the actual name of the relationship. So if you have a joint profile, and then let's call them John and Mary Smith, that would be what you want to name the account. The contact is actually the individual person that you're going to give access to the portal. Or if it's a separate taxpayer, right, and you want to be able to have, or different partners, you want to give them each individual access to that profile so that they can sign documents individually, they can approve documents individually, they can upload, they can basically have their own unique portal access. Hector, anything you want to add between accounts and contacts and the differences between both of them?
Yeah, so a couple of example, like sort of real life examples. So I have a client that we do their personal tax return, and is married filing jointly, and he owns a couple of businesses that he has with multiple partners. Some of those partners we do tax returns for, and some we don't. So for every entity that we do a tax return for, let's call it, a job, the universe of a job with an entity that ends with a tax return, that's an account. Okay, so the personal married filing jointly return is an account. Each of the LLCs that they have is an account. In their personal account, I have two contacts. My client and the spouse, two different contacts. They both have to log in. They both have to sign. Either one can upload documents. Either one can approve uh, 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 documents. Either one can chat with us. And what's really cool is we know some information is coming from the husband, some is coming from the wife, and sometimes between them. They figure out, how they're going to get us the information, but you see the two distinct people that are chatting with you, not a single account. And each of them have to have a separate email because they have to have their own login to sign separately and individually and go through their KBAs and all the stuff the IRS requires for electronic signature. Then on the entities, I can add all the owners, even though I'm not doing the personal returns, I don't have to do an account for them. I can add them just in that contact, and I can choose which entities or which accounts they will have access to. Now, I can also add the employees of the entities as contacts, but don't give them the ability to sign or approve documents. Maybe they just go in there to upload documents or to ask questions. So we have tons of flexibility. And like I said, there's no limit on the number of clients or the number of contacts or the amount of documents in TaxDome, which is I particularly like. So that's how these two things work separately. So you always need an account to attach jobs to, attach documents to. Everything gets attached to an account. The contact essentially is who can log in and do stuff in that account.
Perfect. So let's dive in. Let's create a new account real quick. Gives you first what kind of client type we wanna invite here. So I'm gonna go ahead and call myself Carlos Test in this scenario. We haven't talked about tags, but I'll briefly just share what tags are. Tags are basically a way for you to segment what kind of services your client are going to sign up for with you, right? So if they're going to be a 1040, are they also part of a business tax return? Are you doing any sort of, let's say if you have team members and you want to assign it to John's team, right? You could do that. If you know they're a new client, you can tag them that way. If you know they're a prospect, you can tag them that way. Let's just play around with the premise that they're going to be a prospect. If you know that they use QuickBooks, do they have a separate language preference? You can build as many tags as you want. For now, we'll just use these three as an example. You can also customize what kind of folder template you want to build for them. I really like the default that TaxDome provides, which is just gives you three types of folders: a private folder for you to internally upload things to the client's specific account. You have a firm docs shared with client, which allows the client to sign documents, approve documents, and then you have a client upload folder as well. So if we go into some of these other fields, you'll notice these are actually custom fields. So what's nice is that TaxDome gives you some default fields that you can fill out. But if you want to be a little bit more detailed around what things are important for you to gather as far as data, you can go ahead and create custom fields and fill those out to your liking if you think that's important to you. So that's the account information. The next thing that we would do is we would need to create a new contact. So I would go into here. You can also do it from the menu, but because it's already in the new account menu, it first takes you to the account and then it takes you to the contact. So we'll go ahead again and create this contact name. And you can also create custom fields for this if you want to add their social security. But the most important aspect here is making sure that you add a email address so that you can give them access to the portal. And the only way they're going to get access is by turning on this little toggle button that says login. Now, being able to do this will invite them to the portal. Right when you click on create, you're going to get a confirmation to invite the client to the portal. The notification button is also very useful because it'll notify them whenever you're doing any activity inside of TaxDome. If you don't want them to be notified for every activity, you can turn it off. And then the email sync will allow you to also see what emails are coming back and forth, and it'll all show inside of that account record so that you can have, again, context or some history of what kind of communication you have. So creating the profile, now it's giving me confirmation you're adding access for this user. Do you want to create a personal message? Hey, please set up your portal, right? So now I can create a custom message, and now I'm actually going to be transitioning into the client's profile so that you can see what is the client expecting to receive when they get invited to the portal for the first time. What I really love about this, it's like pretty much instant, right? So as you can see now, it says you've been invited to the client portal. So this is the initial email. What's really nice is that you can upload your logo and it looks like it's a firm portal, right? It doesn't really have any much TaxDome branding in there. It's your firm's brand, which really elevates the client experience. So now as the client, I'm going to log into the portal for the first time, and the setup is so easy. All you need to do is just set up a password.
And one thing I want to add on passwords, because this took a while to get customers accustomed to it. People come back and say, I forgot my password. There's a reset link right there for the customers to use. So it's like we don't have to reset anybody's password. It's super that simple for people to reset their own passwords. And that's usually one of the things that people give you resistance on is, oh, I don't have my password. I forget it. I'm not even going to go into the portal. So it's super easy for people to reset their password.
So here's the client menu, similar to the firm menu, right? But obviously it's from a client's point of view. This is where they can access their documents. They can chat with you. They can fill out an organizer. They can complete a proposal or engagement letter. They can pay the bill. And if you've got clients want to increase security, they can do that as well. If they want to download the apps, they can do so as well. And so you could also change the language if you are operating from a different country or with clients that speak different languages. You use your firm's phone number information. You have your social links if they have an outstanding balance. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to integrate your Calendly or any other scheduling apps, your client, you can actually build a specific link if you want the client to schedule time to meet with you. So I absolutely love, the features that TaxDome has. If you want to upload a document. So I'm going to actually just be the client real quick. I just got invited to the portal here, and I'm going to go ahead and upload a document and see how I would get notified when that happens. Let's go ahead and do that all over again. Creo que le di al documento que no era Hector. That's why he's doing that shit. All right. So if we go back to the firm side, you'll see that I just got a notification that a new account was registered. So that's really nice as well. And let's talk about what you were saying, Hector, right? Let's do some communication. So I want to talk to this client and I want to send them a chat. So I could do that several ways. I can click on the account from the inbox and it'll take me to the account menu. So this is an overview of the account menu after you set it up from the firm side. The first thing it'll give you is just a breakdown of any new documents, any outstanding tasks, what jobs are related to the customer, any email thread that you and the customer have had, any internal secure chats, invoices, signatures, approvals, organizers, when they last logged in, any time tracking notes. Basically, everything that you see here on the top is just on your overview, right? If you want to modify any of their information, you'll get to see who are the contacts that have access to this account. And if you want to add more contacts, you can do so by searching them in here and give them additional portal access. What's really cool about this? Go ahead.
I want to add one thing, Carlos, that's huge in this. Sometimes you're trying to get, again, your client accustomed to using the portal, and you send them to do a task and they come back and go, I don't see it. It's not there. I don't see it on my portal. So one of the things that I think is really, really neat, where you can click on login as account read only. It basically simulates, again, you're the firm user, you are the accountant, the tax preparer. It simulates what it looks like to be logged in as your client. Like in this video, it's very easy because Carlos can switch back and forth. But in the real world, you wouldn't have access to it. So if you want to see exactly what your customer has access to, you just click on that, and then you get to see, where everything is. That way you can explain, oh, on the left side, there's a little button that says documents. That's where the documents are, that sort of thing. So I find that to be particularly intuitive. A lot of software companies in general don't give you that client preview. And sometimes you have to log into the client's computer to kind of discover what it looks like to be logged in as a client user.
Yeah, excellent. So here's what your document center looks like. Again, this is the default setting that TaxDome has. What you'll see on the right side is different folder access permissions. The client uploaded documents allows the client to view and edit in the folder, so they can change the name of the document. They can even edit the PDF inside of their mobile app or their client portal login. This one is a view only, so this is where the firm controls what the client can and can't do with the document. Client cannot edit or delete any documents in here. So when you have your tax document ready for them to view, whether it's a draft and you want them to approve it, you would add it into this folder. If you want them to do an e-signature, right? You don't want the client to do any modifications. This would be the right permission setup you want to have for the folder itself. Then you've got a private folder that you can also have. Let's say if you have anything that's work in progress and your team wants to just have a place to be able to put those files before it's ready to share with the client, you can also put it inside the client's private folders. Every single account you set up is going to have this structure, unless you want to have a different custom structure. I know, Hector, for you and your firm, you guys have a bookkeeping folder where they can have access to their monthly and the month reports, or you also add additional tax years. If you look at this, whenever you need to add the new tax year for your clients. One of my favorite things about this as well is that if you want to request files and without necessarily asking for a client portal, you can say, upload your files here, and you can also add it to the email. And in doing so, you can copy that link. And so now the client can actually go into it without, if they're like, I'm having trouble, going into my portal. Now the client can actually drag and drop manually. The other thing I like about this, if you have like a third party, let's say you're trying to get a brand new client and they're working with an existing accountant, or, there's somebody else that has access to the files, but you don't want them to go into the client's portal. You don't want to add them, maybe a team member or an office manager, and you don't want them to have all of these client portal features. You don't want them to look at, the recent tax returns and all this sensitive data. So very useful resource for you to leverage for third-party document requests. Okay. Then we go into communication. So how do you talk to your customers? You can see, you can do an internal secure chat, or coming soon, you'll be able to do the SMS feature. So if I want to create a new chat with the client, I can securely either select a specific document here, and I could say, hey, welcome to my firm. I could also, pick my own custom message, so I don't necessarily have to do that. And I could just say, hello, test. And I could also create a client task to say, hey, check this box once you've read this message, right? Or if I want to add reminders, I can attach documents. There's a lot more that you can do inside the secure messaging. What's great about it is it's secure. So any client confidential information is a lot more secure than sending it over email. So let's go back to the client experience here so we can see what the client will see. So when they get a new message, the client will get a notification via email, but also they can either go into their waiting for action menu here, or they can click on the left. Either one will take them to the thread, and they could say hello. And the client would just check off the task in here when they're done, and the firm will get a notification whenever the client is completing any type of task or action inside of their portal. So you can see immediately there's a notification saying your client ended up completing this task. So think about, if you're requesting documents, if you're asking the client to do a specific action, that's something that they can easily do. Where to next, Hector?
I think what we can do is send them a proposal, maybe. Just send them a proposal and see what that looks like on the client side.
Okay, sounds good. So let's go into the proposals. One of the newest features from TaxDome, what I really love about this is that you can choose to include all of these elements inside of the proposal, which includes an introduction message, your engagement letter terms, what kind of billing structure you want to provide them, and how you want them to provide it. Right now, proposals does have limited features, but they are quite useful so far. Right now, you can only do one-time billing, but we'll go into that as we get deeper into the work here. So you have to select a template of a proposal, or you can do this manually. Obviously, I recommend to build a template so that you have some of the same structure provided for your customer. Your intro, you can choose here which steps you want to include into the proposal, right? So if you want to have an intro message, what's really nice here is you can level up the client experience by maybe recording a Loom video or a YouTube video, just giving them a little overview, especially if you're onboarding a new potential customer or you're bringing on a new customer. And then you can include the billing. You can have a custom message in the email, hey, great talking to you. Here's my proposal, right? And you could also set up reminders. So if they're not checking it for a few times, you can remind them as many times as you want for them to take a look at that. So in your intro, what would you include here? You could just say intro. And in here, it tells you, explain to your clients who you are, what services you provide, what value you bring. And then we're out of this specific exercise, we're just going to type in hello. In the terms, you would include your engagement letter contract, whatever it would look like for your firm. Right now, I'm just using a default TaxDome template for this. But what's really nice is you can add pictures, you can embed a video, you can create short codes. And what I really love about this, Hector, that a lot of people ask about is, can I include specific custom fields? So if I want to include their address, if I want to include their specific first name, last name, these are customized fields that you can build in the contract. So you can have standard contract language and then custom language where it matters, whether it's what kind of package are you signing up to? Who is this for? And that way it still feels very personalized and not too templatey, right? So here's where the billing, you can set up a billing if you want to do, let's say it's going to be a tax return type of service. And you would set up, what kind of a tax return you're going to do. I think I have there you go. 1040 base, including W-2s. You can change the rate if you want to. You can change the description. You can choose how you want them to issue the invoice. Typically on acceptance is a good default setup. And coming soon, as you can see, this will also be available to do it recurring, which is a feature that they're looking to roll out later in Q4 of 2023. So that's how you would set up the proposal. And then lastly, how do you want them to pay you, right? So you can do credit card, bank debits, or you can offer both. So what does that look like when you submit it all? So every time, a new action is done, you're going to get an email telling you what a new status of what you've done or what a firm owner has done inside of TaxDome. So if a document has been uploaded, what that looks like, if a secure message has been sent to you, and here's the status of the signature requested and the actual engagement letter / proposal. And that's why the message is important too, because you want to make sure that you're highlighting what exactly it is that they're going to review and to sign.
Right.
So
Because
in doing that,
you might send two proposals. You might send one proposal for like sort of a bigger job, more including a whole bunch of stuff, and then maybe a simple proposal. Maybe you gave them two options and you can set up both. And in the message say, this is the big thing that we talked about. This is the small thing we talked about. Just pick either or and we can move forward. And then once they pick one, you can just delete the old proposal or archive it or whatever. So that's why that custom message is really important. So contextually, if there's more than one proposal, your customers know what they're looking at. Carlos, can you send a proposal without requiring a payment?
yeah, you can send a proposal and you can choose not to require billing, which in essence it would be more of an engagement letter.
Right. Perfect.
Okay. So we've talked about how to send a proposal to the clients. Let's move into custom fields and tags real quick. I know I briefly touched on them. So you can create as many tags as you want, which will allow you to properly segment where your clients belong. And additionally, you can also create as many custom fields as you want from the settings menu right up here, which will allow you to select any specific data that you want to make sure is important for you and your firm. A lot of firm owners want more data than what the default TaxDome provides. And you can do that both for accounts and for the contacts. So these are two really nice features that you can leverage in order to further customize how you want to build out your TaxDome for your clients in your CRM. If you are going to add team members, one of the features that's important to consider here in adding a new team member, you can also control what kind of access your team member can have. So if you want a specific member of your team to only be able to see clients, but not necessarily change any other information, you can turn on and off what they can do and what they can't do. So, if you don't want them to manage your tags or the organizers, or maybe you have a team member that's just managing what intake forms that your clients are doing, you can do that. So this gives you a little bit of freedom to know what your team members can see, what they can't see, and what they can do and can't do inside of the portal itself. Especially for a lot of firms that do a lot of outsourcing, this is a really good control feature to limit, what your outsourced employees, subcontractors can do, so that you can protect client data or your firm's data. If you have more of an office manager type of team member, you can just give them the same features as a firm owner. You just basically give them admin rights, and it just gives them full access to everything else. So I really like the access rights portion of it, because it gives you a lot of control and balance, who you want to be able to see and control inside of the firm itself. Okay.
Now, Carlos, even though the proposal with immediate recurring invoicing is coming soon, and it should be out pretty soon, you still can create just invoices in recurring format, right? Could you show us that?
Yeah. So if I just want to invoice the client manually, I would go everything that I want to be able to do in TaxDome. I would click on plus new, and this little sidebar will pop up, and you can see all of the individual actions that I could take. So if I want to invoice the client, I would just go to invoice. I would select my client, and I can bill them either one time or recurring. So the good news is that the recurring feature, just by itself, not inside the proposals, does work inside of TaxDome. So if you do want to request a monthly, let's say you want to have a monthly type of engagement with a client, and you're going to, let's call it engagement.
Yeah, we did that for our bookkeeping engagements. So that worked really well for that.
And so now you can choose to give them a monthly and how many recurrences you would do. So what it'll do is it'll actually populate every automated debit when the client is going to be debited for the amount of the engagement. So in sending that to the client will be able to see that and just accept it, and you get the automatic cash flow happening inside of your firm already, right? So
exactly. And the recurrences, we usually recommend to do 12 like that, especially if you have annual contracts with your clients, and we use the custom fields where we can put the actual date that we're supposed to go back and review those contracts. So we're reminded to go in there, talk to the client, send them a new proposal, get that approved, and then go in there and create the recurring. That's how we do it now. Create the recurring invoices after the client signed the sort of the updated engagement letter. So that's how we do it now. Hopefully, once they tie the two things together, then you should just be able to continually just do this through the proposal feature, sending a new proposal every time you have a price change for your clients. Because the one thing that it's a huge issue in accounting firms and tax firms is that typically when we get so busy, we just do like the same as last year, maybe 5% more or something like that, and we don't really stop to think about how should we start thinking about repricing this client. Is the scope changing? Is the amount of work changing? Is the business growing? Whatever it is. So creating recurring invoices based on the current contract, and then having the database of clients with custom fields or tags or whatever that will help you filter. And every month, you know exactly which clients have already a year with the last contract. You go back and prepare all the new contracts with the new updated pricing.
Yep. So let me go into a few other key features, but before I do that, we're going to talk about templates and how it helps you automate a lot of processes. So if you're going to do manual stuff and you already have pre-made contracts, invoice templates, organizer templates, chat templates, you can build as many templates as you want for any of those type of features. And you would have to go to settings, templates, and you'll be able to see all of those sub menus through here and build them either manually. One thing I strongly love about TaxDome is that they have a library of different templates that you can leverage, and it's even available in different languages. So there's tons and tons, and they're going to actually have a new feature coming out soon called the Marketplace, where it's going to have a better user experience to search templates. Right now, it's a little bit hard to be able to decipher between all of these different types of templates that you want to search through. So that feature will make the user experience easier. And then folks can actually upload their own templates and share amongst the TaxDome user community. And so I'll be actually releasing a few Exceed sales versions of templates that a lot of firm owners, I have helped being able to build, and I have found to be kind of some best practices in that sense. So really love the templates. The other thing is we're going to go into pipelines is just a little bit, but you can also pre-build some automation pipelines that are already in the system, and that'll at least get you started with some automations, a skeleton of how to build a workflow, which is something that we'll go into in just a little bit. But before we do that, let's talk about how to get a client to fill out an organizer. So same idea. If I want to send a intake form or an organizer to a client from one of the templates, I'm just giving them an example here. This is a 1040 type of organizer. One thing that is really nice about these organizers, they're called smart organizers. So depending on how the client answers the questions, different fields will populate. So if they say, yes, it is for a joint return, you'll see that another menu will pop up. Depending on how they answer, different conditions will give them additional questions. So you can manually build this for the client. And in doing that, as you request it to the client, you can build as many sections as you want for them to fill out and as many conditions as you want. One feature I really love about the organizer that is coming out very soon is that the client will be able to select a specific information, and that can automatically tag the client based on the information that the client selects here. So I'll just go into the editing menu for just a moment so you can see what that would look like. So let's say if you have an introductory call for a client and they say, what kind of service do you need? And they say, I need a personal tax return. So based on that response, I can actually modify to say, I want you to update the account tag. If the client says they want a personal tax return, I want you to automatically tag it as a 1040, which is a super amazing, automation that it's just going to save you so much time, especially when you're doing new client setup. And so think about other ways that you can automate this. And very soon, the organizer will have the feature where if the client says, what is your phone number? You can actually, in the settings menu, say, I want you to now make it a custom field, connect it to this custom field. So as the client fills out the form, it'll pre-build the custom field, which will allow you to, again, make your automations a lot smoother when you are sending templates to your clients. Okay. So what would it look like when you send the client an organizer? They're going to get a little inbox saying, hey, please complete your organizer. And then here's where they can fill out all the information. Some of it that you see the little red asterisk is required information, so they need to fill that out. Otherwise, it's not going to allow them to submit the actual organizer itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through this and make sure anything that is filled out with the required is going to be done. And then as I save and submit, it'll say you can't submit it unless
While you finish checking those off, Carlos, I'm gonna just add something to this and backtrack for a second. You were talking about automating via taking information from the questionnaire into tags or in custom fields. You kind of went through that a little bit fast. There, organizers can be used in two contexts. So in the tax world, typically an organizer means, hey, Mr. Customer, send us all your life and financial information in this organized set of questions. But you can also use an organizer to work with leads. You don't necessarily have to work with the client that you're already doing a tax return for. So if you have a client, you're just gathering sort of high level information, like what did you pay last year for the return? What are your issues with your return last year? What kind of things would you want our accounting firm to fix or whatever? Let's say, they call your firm and they kind of seem like a client that would make sense. And then prior for them to set an appointment with someone that's going to give them a price or evaluate their situation, you make them fill out this questionnaire. That's great for loading the CRM information with tags and custom fields. But think about that, what that means to your firm too, where you're going to have all these leads coming in, during tax season, and a lot of them are just going to ask for a price, and maybe they're price shopping. The ones that are willing to get into the portal and answer the questions, they're sort of self-qualifying themselves as higher quality clients. So if they don't fill it out, that's kind of a good thing also. So the nice thing is with these organizer systems, whether they're being used for just lead capture information or to actually engage with the client through the tax return process, you start automating the data that gets loaded into the TaxDome system, and then everybody in your tax organization has access to that information. So they're not calling each other back and forth or checking emails or asking the customer a question twice, which is probably the one thing that makes a tax firm least professional, is when someone asked them a question, the customer took their time and gave them a detailed answer, and then someone else that wasn't privy to that conversation or doesn't have access to the email or didn't read the notes, or even if it doesn't read TaxDome, it could cause the problem too, where they're asking the same question. So the idea is that you build and design a single place to gather all the information for the customer. The organizer can be partially filled by the TaxDome user, by the firm member. Like so you can have in a phone conversation, you can start filling it out. You have 100 questions in your tax organizer or whatever it is. You can fill out the things that the customer's answering on the fly, save that, and then you basically ask them the balance of the questions that you couldn't get a chance to ask either. So that's another really important piece, that the TaxDome user can partially fill those organizers for your customers, so you don't have to like edit the organizer and customize it, so you don't ask the customer the same question twice. Essentially, you have a single place where you ask everybody the same question, but then you start filling out, you pre-fill the answers as you know and understand they're happening. And that this can happen throughout an engagement. In the middle of the year, somebody can say, I bought a house. Okay. And then go back in there and put their, did you buy a house? Yes. That way, next year, when it comes to doing taxes, you don't ask them, did you buy a house again? So that's a really neat thing about just the types of organizers that TaxDome allows you to create, totally custom, create any context around them. And also, as a best practice, it could be a game changer for any tax firm.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to keep in mind here is once the organizer, I think you had mentioned it, does get pre-filled, if you're going to be launching, next year again for the client, the same organizer, the client can choose to pre-fill the previous year's answers. So they don't have to fill that information out every single year, and they can modify whatever had changed. You can even make it more like, hey, did this change, right? So you can customize how you ask the question, so it makes the customer experience a lot smoother. So I think the next thing we should do, Hector, is upload a document and request a signature, which I think is one of the probably most popular features in TaxDome. So we're going to just go ahead and take a look at that real quick. And in this scenario, I'm just going to use our sample tax return that we have. And as I do that, here's where the option menu will choose as the firm, where do I want to upload it? In this scenario, because it's a firm doc shared with client, again, we're just doing the example of a 2022 tax return. Let's just pretend that this is a draft document. And so as I upload it here, there are additional menus that I can select. So first, do I want to notify the client? This I usually don't select, which is mark it as red for the client. Are there any followers when the client opens the document? So a follower is any other firm member that has touched that profile is an automatic follower. So if there are multiple team members that are handling a specific type of workflow, they can be notified the moment that the client opens the document. That's a neat feature if one person is in charge of uploading the document, but the preparer or the final reviewer is in charge of wanting to know when the client signed it. And then this is a feature that you can have where is you can request approval. And typically you do this when you have like a draft ready. And this is useful before you want to request an actual signature, just to make sure you got all of the information correctly. I know that you guys use this in your firm, Hector. Anything you want to add about, why you guys do approval before signature? Because some firm owners just go straight to signature.
Yeah. So psychologically speaking, when you when you give somebody a document and the only option you give them is a signature, they feel like stuck or they freak out saying, "Hey, wait a minute, something's wrong with this report." So it creates additional anxiety that's not necessary. Also, it allows you to sort of slow down the process and go, "Hey, take a look at it, approve it first, and then once you approve it, I get to look at it one more time prior to sending a signature." That could be useful whenever we're preparing sort of a combination between bookkeeping and tax, where maybe we're preparing a profit and loss and a balance sheet. We're doing the bookkeeping. We want them to approve that P&L and L and maybe that net income, the net taxable income, approve that prior to preparing the return. So then once we put on a return, you're not like totally surprised by, oh, wait, what do you mean I have $100,000 in taxable income? Well, that's why we send you the document to approve prior. So that's just depending on how you interact with your clients and what the expectation that you set in terms of the delivery flow of information all the way to the point where you're showing the final tax return. You can really customize that. And if I were to upload a draft, I would only do an approval, not a signature, because you don't sign on a draft. So it's a good example too, because a customer can open a draft, look at it, and then call you and say, "Yeah, it looks good." I think I prefer, instead of having a phone call or a text message that says looks good, I prefer an actual workflow where it shows, "Hey, on April 10th at 3:53 p.m., Carlos Garcia logged in and approved this document." So I like to have just a single place where the customer really will have no way to go in terms of like just sort of making up their own client expectations as they go. You essentially control the entire communication and workflow this way.
Yeah, so let's do the reminders. If the client doesn't open it in 3 days, they'll get an additional reminder, and I could just change those elements as well. The biggest feature here, though, is before the client actually opens up the draft. I know it's one of your favorite features, Hector, is you can link an invoice to that existing document. And what that does, it kind of locks the document basically before the client will actually open it. So this is one of the biggest and probably most valuable features that a lot of people like to leverage, because you can paywall, in essence, the document before they actually look at it. Oftentimes, doesn't happen a lot, but you might run into someone you don't know, a prospect. How do you control when you've done all this work and you haven't billed them if they're actually going to pay you for the work or not? So it's a nice way to accelerate your cash flow. It's a better customer experience and a better firm experience to incorporate this into your flow. So I'm going to go ahead and upload it just to show you what it would look like for the client from the client's point of view. And we're going to go ahead and log in back into the client's portal. So here you are. You've got a pending payment for the document. And so it does take you to the paywall to say, hey, you got to pay the bill before you can take a look at the draft for your document approval. Now, if I decide to remove that, go ahead, Hector.
I do want to add something, Carlos. I think I alluded to earlier when I said that 4 years ago when we were looking at TaxDome, we picked TaxDome because of one specific feature. And 4 years ago, a lot of these things, the proposals, recurring invoices, none of the things were there in TaxDome yet. So, but the one thing that we looked at, because our biggest challenge was trying to put a stop into accounts receivable for our taxes. And we had a challenge having that awkward conversation that, hey, before I show you the tax return, you got to pay my invoice first. And mostly because of the expectation that we set. Obviously we didn't agree on this originally. This is something my firm has changed policy wise in the last 4 years. But what TaxDome really allowed me to do is basically it allowed me to have the return up in the screen, ready to go, ready to file, but with an invoice pending. And when the customer goes, "Hey, I can't look at the tax return," they'll come back, "Hey, I can't look at the tax return." "Hey, yeah, you got to pay the invoice first." And then when they go, "Wait a minute, the last couple of years it wasn't like that," you can say, "That's how the system works." Hopefully, none of my clients are listening at this point, but essentially, we have total control over this. I could either paywall it or not. But because our policy changed and we wanted to, and again, there could be several VAP clients that they're going to pay you. They pay you so much money over the years that if they don't pay you, you would be technically kind of okay. So you would not paywall them. That's fine. But a lot of, especially my brand new clients the ones I got during the pandemic that I didn't know, they were coming from different places all over the world, all over the US or whatever. I want to paywall it first. So it just removed the personal aspect of the awkward conversation that you gotta pay me before you look at the return or before you look at the draft or whatever. You just lock it in place. And if the customers come back and tell you, "Hey, could you override that? I mean, like, can I look at it without paying?" Then you can go back and go, "Wait, you plan not to pay?" And they go, "No, you know what? Never mind. I'll pay." So again, it simplifies the conversation so much. I overrid through the last couple of years many ones that I allowed to look at the return without paying first. And like the way life works, right? Some of them didn't pay and we ended up leaving the firm. And that stuff happens when you do over 500 tax returns. But for the most part, especially for the new clients, we all paywall them. And it transformed accounts receivable in our firm. I mean, it was a game changer. The reason why we got TaxDome and the reason why I continue to tell you, just that thing makes it worth it. I mean, beyond everything that you've shown us, client portal, all these amazing things that it has, that being able to paywall your tax return to me was the single biggest thing. And I think that a lot of firms haven't implemented this. And when they implement that, it completely changes the entire thing.
Yeah. And just a little bit of a firm coaching for firm owners who struggle with collecting fees and billing. You get what you tolerate, right? So if you don't implement solid policies for your clients to train them to pay for the work that you're doing, you're going to find yourself chasing them for invoices for months and months and months. So this is just a nice way, if you have specific clients that are on your hit list, if you will, that are your, what do you call it, your recurring offenders, if you will. This is a really good policy to implement. That way you can get paid for the work that you're doing. So I'm going to unlock this just for the spirit of moving forward with this specific exercise. That way we can just show what it would look like to, let's just assume that this got paid. So now the client is being requested to approve the document. So the approve menu is for the client to review the actual tax return or the document itself that's being requested. And the client has two options. They can either approve or disapprove. If they disapprove, what will happen is they'll ask them for a specific reason as to why they don't approve the document. So you could say, "Hey, you spelled my last name wrong," or "You got my social security wrong." And so just nice feedback for the team member to be able to go back and correct whatever needs to be corrected. This scenario will actually approve it so that we can go ahead and do the last feature inside of the document. There's plenty that we can go through, but the two biggest ones is uploading, requesting approval, and then the next logical step, especially if you're in the tax world, is requesting a signature. So we're going to go ahead, and now that we see that the document's approved, you can see it in the document menu. We'll be able to see it in the Inbox Plus as well. There it is. And there are several ways that you can go into the document. I can go from the Inbox Plus directly into the client's account, into the document itself. And right here in the three dots on the top right, you can go ahead and request a signature. What it'll do is it'll take you into a DocuSign style menu where you can now drag and drop that signature line into the specific document. Again, one thing I love about TaxDome is that you can pre-make templates, and in those templates, it'll pre-fill where those specific signatures should go. In this case, this was an 8879 example. I don't have a template for 1120, which is the one that we're using. But if I did, it will automatically request that client signature. And as you can see, it'll have the firm owner's signature where it's supposed to belong if you wanted to do that manually or in the form of a template. This scenario, I'm only just going to put the signature request. We'll put the date, and you can have a custom text box. And in that text box, you can say, what title are you in this scenario? So I'm sending the request.
Just want to
Now
add
there's
some. I want to add something to that. There was a little checkbox that said KBA under that, and there's an additional fee for that. We pay, I believe, it's $1 per KBA. So that's outside of the TaxDome fee, because TaxDome uses a sort of a third-party verification provider, and this is a requirement by the IRS where it just can't just be a regular signature. Like this is, you have to have a third party verify that person is who they are. So when that person logs in and the KBA opens up, it's going to do a sort of a historical check on that person, and it's going to say, hey, which of these are your old addresses, or which car have you owned? It's one of those like soft credit pools that don't affect your credit, but it's used to verify who the person is. And Carlos, the one thing that we didn't cover, but I think it was just good mentioning in general, and I think that probably requires an entire hour presentation, is to discuss essentially how workflows work. So could you give us a Reader Digest version before we wrap things up? Exactly what are workflows?
Yeah. And right before we do that, I'm just going to show you what the client portal view looks like to sign the document, just so that we can finish, kind of tie a bow into this. The client can go ahead and click on that, and it'll have their pre-filled signature. If they signed before, you have their date, and you've got your title right there. So this is how easy it is for the client to sign and fill out the actual document request from the client portal. So workflows. We're going to have a separate video to go into depth of what workflows are, but essentially, workflows are where you build out your specific projects. And what they do is they have a Kanban style overview that will take you from the left as your first stage. This is a pipeline. A pipeline is basically a high level overview of all of the projects, or what TaxDome calls it, are jobs, every individual service that you're providing at that particular period of time. And you can customize all of the specific stages. Every stage is just kind of a step inside of the workflow, starting from what would be the first thing that you want the client to automatically receive when you are adding them into a workflow, or what would be the first task you want to assign to a team member. And you can automate any of these features basically that you see on the left menu inside of that workflow for the most part. The other nice thing about this, especially if you're doing bookkeeping workflows, is that you can build a recurrence and customize the job recurrence by customer. So if I were to add this client into this workflow, I can customize how often do I want them to be, what period repetition you want. So what I love is if you have a bookkeeping workflow and you've got both monthly and quarterly customers, you can customize all your quarterly into the same pipeline and all your monthly into the same pipeline. It's a new feature that they came out with that I absolutely love.
Yeah, the way we're picturing that to work for 2024 for us is there will be a monthly bookkeeping workflow with a different pipeline just to manage the specific stages of bookkeeping, a quarterly tax planning workflow for the customers that engage into tax planning with us, and then we'll every single quarter we'll go through the stages of the tax planning, which is a similar process as preparing the returns. You collect a preliminary P&L and balance sheet for the quarter, prepare a mock tax return, add the different components and projections. So it will have probably a lot less steps here because there's no electronic filing per se or 8879, but there could be a request or a instruction to the client for them to send their quarterly payment, so you can add that as different workflow for tax planning, for example. And then of course the tax preparation pipeline, which we have is split in three. We have the 1040, the 1120S and 1065, just because these are pass-through entities and they have similar deadlines and stuff like that, and then the 1120. So we have, for each type of return with different deadlines, we have its own pipeline, and this is very similar to how it looks in my firm. Basically, we move it along, and as a manager, because I don't move these things along. I have my team do that, but as a manager, I could quickly see, hey, where are all my returns? Where do we stand? Um, what stage are they in, and it kind of lets us know whether we're tracking on time or not to complete are the returns by the deadline.
Yeah. So we just completed a full walkthrough of TaxDome, and we have not even dived in to the workflow automation piece, but we're excited that we're going to do a separate video dedicated just to workflows and automations. So this concludes our part one of the 2023 TaxDome features, pricing, and just how to navigate and demo all together. Hector, any final thoughts for our viewers before we wrap up?
My final thought is, if you have no practice management software in your tax firm, absolutely look into TaxDome. If you have something else that's not TaxDome, take a look at it and compare. Like, at the end of the day, I think that if you have a system and you use it, you update it, your team uses it, your team updates it, and your client uses it and interacts with you, that works. So, like, in no way, shape, or form, I'm saying, hey, this is better than everything else. We haven't used anything else. I mean, I know, Carlos, I don't know if you played with others, but we got TaxDome, we stuck with it, and I would say that probably would have been impossible for me to smoothly sell the tax portion of our practice to this new firm if we didn't have a system like this. So the ROI was beyond the operating benefits. I mean, it really resulted in the ultimate on the ultimate result, which is the ability to literally delegate this to someone else as smoothly as possible and not break the experience with the client. And I use Carlos not just because he's my brother, but well, I used him because he was my brother. But now I could tell you objectively, if he wasn't my brother, he's an incredible consultant, understands the system uh, in every possible way. And if you want to have a detailed walkthrough for your firm, contact Carlos. I'm sure he'll blow you away with what he can help you to do with TaxDome.
Awesome. And we'll leave in additional notes how you can have access to a free trial. We have a special link that has an extra incentive with more details on that. And if information, if you want to reach out to me and learn more about how you can custom implement some of these workflows, automations, and train your team to implement TaxDome the right way so you can level up your customers' experience and your firm's brand.
Awesome. Thank you very much.